It is always a good day when we get a Whoosh Motorsports package in the mail. I'm super excited for today's video. We're going to be doing a complete breakdown and walkthrough on installing this single port auxiliary fueling kit for my Fiesta ST. As many of you might know, trying to find a detailed, whoa, that bee just died right in front. Ooh. Okay, dude, I'm filming. What's going on here? As many of you might know, if you try to find a video detailed install on this, it is impossible. So as we're working with our sponsor, Whoosh Motorsports, I hit up Ron and I said, let's get some auxiliary fueling going. He's like, all right, let's do it. Make a detailed video for me. So that's what we're gonna be doing today. I'm super excited, but we're gonna dig into it. We're gonna see what is all in this kit. We're gonna see what it takes to install it. We're gonna see how much power we can put down, working with Dizzy Tuning as well. He's also a partner in this video, so super excited to work with Ron at Whoosh Motorsports and Jason at Dizzy Tuning, and we're gonna see what all it takes to get into this auxiliary fueling kit. All right, the whole kit is unpackaged. We got it all laid out here on the table so that we can see all the parts that are included. Just to start us off is the split-second injector controller. This is obviously needed to control the injectors and all the electronics. These are all gonna plug into all four of the different injectors. And it also comes with a serial cable adapter right here. We got a fuel line right here. This is Aeromotive fuel line, and we also have the fittings to go with it. This is E85 compatible and completely safe. We have the Whoosh Motorsports CNC machined injector plate. Thing looks super nice. It's hard anodized black. Comes with obviously the injector to go with it. And this right here is the Deechworks 65 pound-an-hour injector, rated all the way up to 350 to 375 wheel horsepower. There is also a 90 pound-an-hour injector option for those 400 wheel horsepower plus applications. We also have the 4 longer screws that are going to be replacing the stock screws on the stock throttle body. Then we have the Aeromotive Quick Connect for the fuel line. This is 5/16. And these little splicers here, I don't know the proper term for them, but they're gonna allow us to splice in the wires with the stock injectors. So that is everything. It's about 9 things all in total that we're gonna need, and we're gonna start jumping right into this. Hopefully we'll have some help here pretty soon from Jason. He's installed these and he's an expert in the field, so we're gonna be hopefully getting some of his advice on the install so that I can do this properly. So right now we're gonna start assembling a few things here together before they go in the car. So we got a couple things that we're gonna assemble real quick here on the table. So let's start plugging this stuff together. I'll show you what we do. All right, so we got this main assembly tightened up and put together. We got these fittings tightened down. So this is pretty much ready to go. The wrenches that we used here is a 3/4, 19mm, and an 18mm. So far, those are the only tools that we used, along with that Allen key that I showed you, to take this off and put the injector in and then tighten it back down. That's a bit of a squeeze, so you kind of just got to work it in there. Make sure not to damage any of the O-rings that are in there as well. And this is all fitted up, so let's move to the next step. Okay, the next step is to depressurize the fuel system. So for that, we're gonna go into the passenger side glove box. There's fuse R13. Open your glove box, squeeze the 2 tabs on the glove box. That'll drop down. All your stuff's probably gonna come flying out. We gotta start the vehicle and see if it stalls out in 20 seconds, because then we'll know that the fuel is no longer pushing through. Okay, we might have pulled the wrong one because it's not dying. Let's try another one. Okay, we found the right one. All right, so now we found the right one. I'll show you guys the correct one. Now we're just gonna crank it for another 20 seconds, make sure the fuel is out all the way out of the vehicle. Okay, it won't let me crank it. Okay, that's not right. For some reason, it won't let me crank it and get all the fuel out, so we're just gonna have to pull the system and hope no fuel just flies all over us. Here is the proper fuse. Looks like this, the top left. I'm pretty sure if you have the same year and model, that should be the same thing with you. So top left for the fuse, looks like that. Okay, next step is to remove the negative battery terminal. All right, next step is to jack this thing up in the air. Now we're gonna get up under here, we're gonna take the charge pipe off. This is a 7mm. You wanna disconnect this sensor right here on the charge pipe. There's another vacuum hose connected to it right here with the green tab. You're just gonna pull the 2 green tabs forward and the vacuum hose will pop right out. There's a vacuum connection right here, right on the throttle body. Just squeeze this top and bottom and take that off. It'll just slide right out. Looks just like that. Then we're gonna get that last clamp of the top of the charge pipe. That's another 7mm. We're gonna get that with a ratchet. Takes a little maneuvering, but once you get it maneuvered, you should be able to just pull it right out. Voila, just like that. All right, then we're gonna take the throttle body off. We got 4 T30 bolts that hold the throttle body on. So we're gonna take a super long extension, 3/8 drive with a swivel on the end with a T30 socket. And we're gonna try to remove that throttle body from underneath, go all the way up. So you can see there's one, I already got it loosened. There's one there, there's another one right there to the right of it, as you can see, right there. And then 2 more parallel on the other side. Pull that sucker out. Boom, just like that. Okay, we got 1 yellow connection that you may or may not be able to see right there. Just gotta unplug that from the throttle body first. This reminds me of the good old days when I first bought this thing. I had to swap out the throttle body as part of maintenance. And look at that, nice and clean. This side might be a little bit dirtier, but no, it's still nice and clean. Check that out. Heck yeah, 10,000 miles. Still no carbon buildup. This thing is a champ. Okay, so it's time to install the throttle body back with the main component here with the injector and the throttle body spacer. So we're gonna put this on this. The rubber seal aims down towards the throttle body. This goes right back up onto there. And then you're gonna use these new 3-inch Phillips head screws. And we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4 with these right back into these holes. Okay, so that is fully installed, tightened down. We got all 4 screws back in. Now, well, you can see it up in there. That is ready to go, sandwiched up in between the throttle body, right in there, the hard line, and then the AN line comes up here, right from here, and it's gonna tuck up underneath this intake here, and it's gonna go into the fuel rail right under there. So we're gonna remove this intake S silicone hose right here. I'm gonna pop this clamp off, lift this up. I pulled this piece off right here for this vacuum, right to there. Just pop that clip off, put that out of the way. And now we're gonna remove this out of the way, and then I'll show you what to do next. Now you can see we have access to that hard fuel line right there, so I'm gonna show you how we can disconnect that. Had to run out and get a couple things. We're gonna need a crimp tool, got some new electrical tape. You're gonna need one of these circle ground connectors. We need add a circuit right here with a mini circuit. Something that I have to note is the fuse add a circuit. I got the wrong one. This one is really small. You can't get the super mini. You need to get this one with the prongs that look like a regular fuse like this. So don't use this one, use this one. And then we're gonna use the 7.5 amp on the one on the right, just like this. And the 10 amp, replacing the original 10 amp, just like that. These quick disconnect tool set right here. We need this gray one, the 5/16. This is for AC lines and fuel lines. we're gonna put it around that line right there. What we're gonna do is take this tool here, we're gonna go on, push it around, it's got a crack in the side, push it around the back, and then pull it towards us, and that should pop it off. So that is that all hooked up. We got the AN fitting from the throttle body, comes down underneath the intake here, and then brighten this up a little bit, follows down in, right into, soft line goes into the new attachment right there, and then goes into our pre-existing hard line right there, and that goes into the fuel rail as well. So that is all that buttoned up. Now we're gonna go back down under, we're gonna reinstall the charge pipe, put that all back together. Then we're gonna go ahead and button up this intake here, put it back together, plug everything back in that we removed, and basically just reverse order, and then we're gonna go from there. Okay, so that's all the physical hardware stuff buttoned up. Now we're gonna move on to the electrical. We're gonna install this split-second injector controller. So we're gonna set this thing up. All right, so what we got here is the split-second controller comes out and it separates into two different sections. So the one section that we got here is gonna go over into your injector. This kit is for a single port or 4-port auxiliary fueling. So we have 4 different injector plugs. We're only gonna be using one of them. I'm gonna probably be using the closest one, and then I'm gonna tie up these with some electrical tape in case in the future I do wanna go 4-port auxiliary fueling. Then we have the power here to control that's gonna be wired up in by the spark plugs or by the coil packs. So these 4 yellow wires are gonna be spliced in to those wires. I'll show you there in a minute. And then we got this red power wire right here that we're gonna be using this add a circuit for right here. So that's gonna go to that. Then we have this green that's gonna go and splice into the map sensor, and I'll show you guys that. And then we have black, which is ground, and the ground is gonna be grounded. We're just gonna take a bolt off, we're gonna crimp this on, and then we're gonna put this to ground. So it's really not that complicated, but I think what we're gonna do right now is, these already come pre-stripped on the end, so we just pull this piece off right there, and then we have bare wire for us to do some work on right there, if you can see that. So we're gonna attach this on right here, and then we're gonna wire up the fuse box thing right here. I think we're gonna mount this in, and then we're gonna go from there. Let's go to the fuse box. I'll show you guys which fuse we're gonna be tapping into. Right here, this 10 amp right there. So we're gonna pull this 10 amp out. We're gonna use the add a fuse. We're gonna throw this in to the add a circuit. I'll show you what we do. And that will be used for ignition to turn it on. And we got these 5 butt connectors that it's sent with right here. These are the twist type butt connectors. The gray is the part that goes onto your car, and then on the top here is the part that's gonna add into the new circuit. So I'll show you how this works. So we're gonna come out from here, and then on top of these coil packs right here where we're connected, the wire that is getting spliced is the one that's closest to the back of the vehicle. So that would be this one right there, closest to the back of the vehicle. And that's gonna go the same thing for this one, this one, this one, and this one, all 4 of those. And then down here to your map sensor, we're gonna do the same exact thing, the same wire that is closest to the back of the vehicle, which would be this blue wire right here on the back side. So we're gonna splice all of those wires into those 5. So the next thing we're gonna do is start to put in this split-second controller. We're gonna double-sided sticky tape it to the top of the fuse box. I'll show you how to do that. Basically what we're gonna be doing here is take the wiring loom, go up and under, make sure that we're not hitting anything hot. This is also gonna go underneath the intake here. We're gonna go ahead and take this black end off here, And what we're gonna do is take the power and ground, because they're gonna be over here, and the rest of the wiring needs to go to this side of the engine. All right, so that is all wired up. Let me show you guys here. We got the red pulled all the way through the loom so it can stick out here. We got it jumbled up. This is just a temporary setup right now just to get it up and working. We can come back and clean it up whenever. And then we got the fuse right here that we're just gonna pull the box and plug it into that 10 amp. And then we got our ground that came also through the loom. We just tucked it right here beside the battery and then up onto this ground right here. Pretty simple. As far as the other loom going to the injector, what we got here is it comes down right through here, hugs the battery, try to keep it away from anything that gets hot. We zip tied it right up in here underneath the intake, and then it comes out right under the intake right here. As you can see, I jumbled up the rest of the 3 connectors with some electrical tape just to keep them protected for now. And then we ran our last connector on that kit right to the injector, and you can see it plugged in right there. So I'm gonna run it under here, do the same thing, run it around, and then I'll plug it into these, and I'll show you guys how that looks. That is all the wiring pretty much done. So what we did here was we took the loom again from here, wrapped it around under, coiled up a little bit of the slack right under there, nice and neat, and then we followed it up right here onto this existing harness right here. We're gonna come up on each one and tie it into those butt connectors. It looks really clean. And then we got this, I was gonna come up around here, but I didn't have enough slack, so I'm just gonna come up here. This PVC doesn't get too hot, coming right here, just tied it into this, zip tied it to this little wire here to keep it nice and tidy, and then wired that into that butt connector right there. So that is pretty much the wiring all hooked up. Now where we go from here, the wiring's done, the throttle body plate is done, the injector on that plate is all wired up and hooked up. We got to plug in that fuse, and then we're going to be programming and tuning. So let's jump into that. We got Jason at Dizzy Tuning on the phone with us here to answer some questions that we might have about this single auxiliary port, and we're going to jump right into it. So I think, Jason, thanks for coming on with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So a couple questions that I have. I think a question that a lot of people will have, first off, is what is the maximum power that we can look at with the single auxiliary port fueling kit on the hybrid turbo, and then what's the max power we can look at with a big turbo setup?
Sure. Starting with the hybrid turbos, I guess we can just talk about power in general. Regardless of fuel, what is the max power that the turbo can flow? The hybrids, typically, I feel there may be a little bit of a misconception on those. 300 horsepower, I feel, is kind of right on the ragged edge of the hybrid turbo. That's just because of the small compressor and the small turbine housing. They're the factory housings, which are very small and they just do not flow. So I feel like about 300, 320 is about the max on a hybrid. I typically see 370, 380 on pump gas, good pump gas, 290, 310, maybe 320 pushing it on ethanol. Auxiliary fuel is going to be needed for anything over 300. So if we can get near 300 with your factory fuel system, then the auxiliary fuel kit may help you get that additional 10 to 20 horsepower. Considering that the turbo is, still flowing well, the temperature, everything is all responding well. Larger turbos, S280, the turbo that I recommend all the time, they see probably anywhere from an easy 330 to probably 350, 360 is pretty average. 300 on pump gas, 350, 360. Let me reiterate that: 300 on pump gas, 350, 360 on an ethanol mix. That's pretty standard. Again, anything over 300, the factory fuel system is running out. Then you go into like the Garrett's, the 2860s, the 2867s. Those are going to get you into the 380, 400, 450 range. But again, you're going to need auxiliary fueling for that as well.
Okay.
Anything over, you'll need the auxiliary fueling.
I gotcha. Yeah, so guys, turns out that my dreams have been crushed just a little bit today. We can't hit that 350 on our hybrid, but we're going to try to set this up. We're going to get the power that we want. We're going to hit that 300 number. We were somewhere in between, that 250 to 275 number. So we'll be able to hit that 300 horsepower number hopefully by the end of this. And we're gonna finish setting this thing up. So another question as far as the setup, after everything, the hardware is installed, what would be the next step, or the next couple steps, I guess, put in a general sense, to the point where we can finally get this thing on the road, set up with the auxiliary kit, and ready to start making some actual power?
Yeah, so typically what I like to do is after a customer installs an auxiliary fuel kit, obviously they're usually prior tuned up to the point of the auxiliary fuel system. So what I ask them to do is I'll ask them to get the fuel kit installed. I typically like to ask the customer to send me data logs, same ECU map that they left off on prior to installing the kit. The reason why I do that is I just want to make sure that the prior logs and the current logs look exactly the same. If I see an issue like boost is low or whatever it may be, I can say, hey, we need to address this before we continue. As long as everything looks okay, then I will make either changes to the ECU map changes, and we kind of just go from there. It is going to be 2 maps going forward though. So you'll get an ECU map and you'll get a fuel map. I can usually go over with a customer in detail if they need instructions on how to, program and flash the controller and all that.
All right, perfect. So hopefully you guys can, get a clearer picture of where we need to go with this auxiliary fueling kit and what you'll need to do if you want to run this route to max out the horsepower on your hybrid turbos. So I think the next step here is I'm going to probably walk through the process with Jason, and then everything that we do, I'll run that back with you guys on the camera, and I'll show you where to go. So we're going to jump right into the next step, and I'll see you there. So the next step, we're going to take our software right here on the CD that comes with it. I can't put this into my laptop, so we're going to go upstairs, put this on my home computer. We're going to download it onto a USB drive. Pretty easy, just drop and drag the file. So we plugged it in right here, we got it up, we opened up the file, something like this, went to the R4 software right here, clicked on that, we clicked on this setup, and we're opening it, and this is what we got so far. Just like this, we're gonna click next, we're gonna click next, we're gonna click next, we're ready to install, click next, clicked on R4 controller, and this pops up. Ta-da! I'm gonna click on file, new customer, input your file name, customer, I guess Ford Fiesta in documents. Okay, save. Then click file, open customer, click on Ford Fiesta, open, and then we're gonna go to options, system settings, and then you should check voltage on this one, and this additional injector controller should be clicked as well. Then go to options, engine settings, and then make sure this is set to 2 cylinders and 2-stroke. It's hooking up and make sure that it works properly. So we got the top opened and it's connected in here with the cable, and I want to show you guys a little bit about how we can see if it's working properly. We're gonna have to plug in our cord, run it into the inside of your car, and let's see here. So once you have that all set up, it's connected with your cable into the box for the split controller. For the split second controller, you're going to come in here, you're going to open file, open your customer, click on your customer, and then you're going to come in here, connect to the ECU. You're going to go through the comms, and then there's a connect button right here. Most of the time it's going to be on COM 3 right here, and then you're going to click this ECU connection button right here, attempting to connect. Okay, actually you're going to need to turn the engine on like that, and then we're going to try that again, retry, and then you should be connected under COM 3. And then once we're in here connected, you're going to go to real time, you're going to go to all, and you should see volts 1.6 and 0 RPM. Turn the car on. You should see the RPM here. It's not going to match up perfectly, but it is around 580 or so, and you should see around 0.6 volts while the car is on. And then if you click on this, open it up into big screen, it's probably going to be a little bit off, but the RPMs, as you can see here, I have my RPM gauge on my access port, and we're about 800 right now. And then once you get into the higher RPM range is when it's going to match up, because you don't need
this controller to work at low RPMs. It opens up when you start adding more fuel and making more power.
So where we are at now is we just sent over some data logs. If you guys don't know how to data log, you can look at one of my recent videos. I might be able to link it right here, so you can check that out. So we just data logged on 93 tune with the whole kit installed with it unplugged and not powered on. So you can just make sure the install went properly, nothing's leaking, and it looks pretty good. So we just went and picked up some ethanol. He told me we're gonna run straight into the E40 tune on my last E30 map. Which we already tuned for E30. So we're gonna try to get the proper E40 blend because we're gonna go straight to E40 for this first tune. That's what Dizzy recommended. We're gonna first swap over that ethanol into my VP Racing tank so I can actually dump it into the tank. We're gonna get to this station, put it up to about 55% on 93, and then we're gonna fill the rest with the 5 gallons of the E98. Yeah, thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Okay, so what we just did, we filled up 55% of 93 octane, and then we filled the rest of the 5 gallons of E98 into the tank after that. That puts us all the way full. You can have, there's a bunch of calculators online that you can use to get the right ratio. We're gonna do a couple good pulls, and then we'll do some data logs, and then we'll send those logs back to Jason. And then hopefully after that, he'll send us a new fuel map. We'll load that up and we'll get to that point when we get there. But for now, I'm gonna go do some logging and we'll send them to him. Hopefully it feels a little better, we'll see. Might feel the same as the E30 tune until he adjusts some things, but we'll go from there. All right, it's a couple days later. We're ready to flash the first fuel map. So what we did here, we got the wire that was supplied. We got it opened up onto the split-second controller, plugged in there, and then into the USB into our computer. We made sure that the fuse was plugged in, and we're gonna go through this right now. So what we're gonna do next is open up the R4 controller. I don't know if you guys can see this at all. We're also gonna load up our fuel map from Dizzy. Just download that from the email that he sends you. Once that is open, we're gonna go to File, Open Customer, right here. So before we connect to that comm, we're gonna turn the ignition to accessory mode. We should be able to connect to the comm now. Let's see. Okay, and we are connected. Okay, then what you're gonna do next, you're gonna close that out. You're gonna do File, Close Customer, and then you're gonna do File, Open Customer. And then you're gonna wanna open the customer that is your fuel map, which is right here, which is mine. You're gonna go back to the comm, and then connect. And you should be connected. Then we go to Maps, Fuel Maps. Then we're gonna write data to ECU, which is right here. We're gonna overwrite, click yes. We're gonna let that load up. And then once it's done loading, we're gonna scroll over. So you should see zeros before any maps are loaded. You're gonna scroll over and you're gonna see some voltage in these boxes right here. So once you see that and it's not all zeros, your map should be loaded up. You should be good to go. We're gonna disconnect this and then go get some data logs. All right, I'm pretty nervous. I hope everything is, there's a lot of room for error here, but we're gonna do the data logs. We got 3 pulls to do, and hopefully it goes well. I'll let you guys know what we get. Here we got, this is the first pull on your first fuel map, so we're probably gonna have one more revision, I'd imagine. But we're gonna be in 3rd gear at 2,500 RPM, and then just all the way to red line. So we're gonna get 3 data logs here. Here we go. Adjustments to boost and also timing. Making some pretty alright numbers. It's better than before. So where we're at right now, update the most current update on my estimated numbers for the Cobb access port. That pull was horsepower was estimating around
around 270 horsepower. It's pretty good. Estimated torque around 280 foot-pounds of torque. So we're making improvements. Hopefully we can squeeze to 300, if not as close as we can to 300 as possible. And foot to the floor. This is really upsetting. I don't know what's going on with my car. We're at 265 horsepower. Like what? So I think we need to have a talk. That magical number of 300 is not possible yet. Unfortunately, on this turbo, the hybrid turbo, and the climate that I'm in, and a lot of other contributing factors, we cannot hit that 300 horsepower number on this hybrid turbo. That's not saying that you won't be able to, but the chances are unlikely of you being able to hit a 300 horsepower on a hybrid. You can look at 260 to 275, somewhere around there, with the auxiliary fueling kit. Now I talked to my tuner, Dizzy, we went back and forth for a while, and he said there's just no more breath in this turbo. So the maximum capacity that it can hit, for me, is around 270 horsepower, 270 foot-pounds of torque. That being said, I do plan to upgrade the turbo to a bigger turbo, most likely the Turbo Technics S280. I've heard tons of good things about that bigger turbo. I know it's kind of like a mix of a hybrid slash big turbo, but I'm excited to eventually swap over to that kind of turbo. Then we'll revisit this whole thing with the auxiliary fueling, see how much power we can actually put down. That being said, thank you so much to Wish Motorsports for sending out this auxiliary fueling kit. Although we didn't hit the number that we reached, it is set up for the next stage of this vehicle when I go bigger turbo. Guys, hit up wishmotorsports.com. That is a go-to place for your Fiesta ST, Focus ST, EcoBoost Mustangs, Explorers. Check out their website. They got a bunch of awesome stuff for you to check out. And also the tuner, Dizzy Tuning. Jason killed it on this tune. Even though we didn't get to hit that number, he did the best that he could, and also maintaining the safety of the vehicle. So that's the verdict with today's video. If you guys plan on doing the auxiliary fueling kit, I hope this install helped you. And again, you know where to go to get your own. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more LS400 content and the Fiesta content. Thanks for tuning in. See you guys in the next one.